Claps in the chat, new video, boys. Bam.
One of WoW's most infamous expansions. Whenever something bad happens in World of Warcraft, generally they'll use Warlords of Draenor as a measuring stick. To say, sure, this new feature is kinda bad, but it's not as bad as this thing from Warlords of Draenor.
This trailer
and
was
to an extent
so
it deserves
hype
some
and
of that
pod.
criticism.
I love
Blizzard themselves even apologized for the expansion. But was it really that bad? When Warlords of Draenor first launched, you might be surprised to hear that it set records for returning players. There was almost nothing but positivity about the expansion on.
I liked WoD, chat. Type 1 if you liked WoD. Type 2 if you didn't like WoD. I didn't like WoD only because of Ashran, and we were forced to do Ashran for PvP. But I actually didn't mind the whole PvP thing. Like, they had vendors, or honor vendors, and arena vendors. This was the expansion I had the most alts. I literally had every character at max level. And fully geared. All hit 2k to get the elite mog. I think it was a good I mean, it wasn't terrible. I don't know if it was the best, but it wasn't bad. They had challenger mode. They had cool PvP elite set. I kind of liked it. It wasn't too bad. It was better than BFA.
Online, once people were able to play the game anyway. Although Rocky launches aren't exclusive to Warlords of Draenor. So why were people so jazzed about the expansion at first? Let's dissect the questing real quick. WoD had this system called Draenor perks, where when you were leveling up, every 2 levels or so, they would just give you a boost to one of your main damage dealing abilities, or just something that you use all the time. For Shadow Priests, they would get a perk that allowed their Mind Flay to channel 33% faster, which is just straight up a damage boost to one of their main filler spells. They also received a feature which enhanced Shadow Orbs, which was actually a pretty big deal for DPS back then, because it meant it was much harder for them to cap their main resource. They were also given the ability to generate that resource with another skill, and allowed to use their main defensive cooldown more often. MM Hunters received a base bonus to their focus by 20. Survival Hunters got a straight up 1 second increase to their explosive shot, which is huge for their main damage dealing ability at the time. Mages got a speed boost after using Blink. Arcane Mages got a buff to the Arcane Blast, which allowed them to cast it faster every time they gained a stack. Basically, every class and spec received huge boosts to their damage or utility while leveling up, and got to keep these boosts for the entire expansion. So it was one of the last expansions where your character actually felt stronger as they leveled up, rather than getting weaker. The zones themselves also contributed to this. Every single zone in Warlords of Draenor had the very specific zone perk. And when you started off in Frostfire Ridge or Shadowmoon Valley, you would get a specific ability that only worked inside the zone in the open world. The default one you got allowed you to basically summon a small army to help you fight something. When you moved over to Gorgon, they would let you choose between 2 abilities.
We have the same thing. In Shadowland, we have Necrolord, Avendir. We have that, no?
One of them allowed you to summon a mech suit that was actually very effective at mowing down ads, and even gave you the niche ability to fly for a short amount of time. It was a huge legitimate DPS increase to be able to use the Mech Shredder 5000, but
cool.
It was only available to this one zone. You also had access to the Champion's Honor, which would summon a champion to help fight for you, and then give you a buff after he went away in a minute, which would be stronger based on how many enemies you killed while the ad was out. In the Spires of Iraq, you had the option between picking an extra Hearthstone with a reduced cooldown.
I didn't mind WoD leveling. WoD leveling was pretty fast and felt
or a rare
fresh.
NPC vendor who you could summon every 10 minutes, which would sell you a whole bunch of buff items that would directly increase your damage. Almost everyone picked the Hearthstone because of the increased XP, but both of them were great options to pick. And the extra Hearthstone combined with the extra XP made Aspires of Iraq one of the fastest leveling zones. In Talador, you had the option between 2 different DPS cooldowns. One of them would summon a Guardian Orb that would come out to electrocute enemies, and the other one was 3 Charge Artillery Strike, which was off cooldown enough where it was basically part of your rotation by the end of the zone. In the Grand, you have the option to pick either a Siege Engine you can summon once every 10 minutes, just like the mech suit from Gorgon, or you could pick a mount that you could ride in combat. One of them is a temporary cooldown DPS boost. The other one is such an incredible convenience that I'm sure many people wish they could have it as a default option for leveling. So when it came to the actual combat and leveling in the zones, getting a whole bunch of really strong abilities as you leveled up, as well as getting really strong zone abilities, really made the leveling a lot more fun from just a gameplay point of view. They really knocked out of the park with just giving you fun things to do that you're basically only going to use while leveling. And I'm not sure
why. I realized this recently. Leveling in WoW. Is it weird to say I have fun leveling in WoW? I don't know about classic WoW leveling, but if I were to level a new character now in this WoW right now, I have fun. There was a time where I was really bored, I had nothing to do. I made a new paladin level 1, and I picked that new zone with like max sound, max just surround. Like, I just put myself in the game, and I was having fun leveling up to like 20. I don't know why, but just embedding myself and just leveling was fun. Leveling experience was kind of fun for me with the new stuff. Kyle, thank you. Appreciate it, dude.
Why they didn't follow up and try to do this again outside of what
Someone's on my door. I'm back. My brother went fishing, and he said, "Do I want fish?" I said, "No."
they did with the Covenant abilities. But honestly, all of the Covenant abilities are very tame compared to what the zone perks would give you. Although it wasn't just the player's power while leveling, as sure, you were really strong while leveling in Warlords of Draenor, but also Warlords really went all out with treasures and introducing the bonus objective system, where while you're randomly questing, you'll get a bonus objective that pops up, and if you complete it, it will just give you a crap ton of experience. It was so much experience that you could skip leveling normally and just do bonus objectives. Same with treasures. There was a whole bunch of treasures littered throughout all of the zones, and while the treasures themselves only gave minor cosmetic items or a little bit of garrison resources, they would also give you about as much experience as completing a quest.
I remember doing
before
that.
Blizzard nerfed them later on. Leveling through Warlords of Draenor was the fastest old expansion to level through because you could just skip traditional leveling entirely by just collecting treasures and bonus objectives. And that was on top of the leveling itself also being excellent. Now, I know Warlords of Draenor gets...
I think that kind of stuff makes it fun for people that don't like to level normally. Like, it gives them like side stuff to do, something entertaining and looking for treasures. I think that's a good way to put it.
Lots of crap for some of the worst writing of all the expansions.
I like
for
these
how tired everyone was of the garrisons. But
I
these were
these.
both actually really good at the start. While you first build up your garrison, you could recruit followers that would help you out for missions out in the open world. And since the original soft cap was around 20 followers, that meant you had to go out and collect a lot of different people.
Dude, I was
in order
sad
to
when
hit
he
that
died.
first soft cap. And most of them were creatures you would find out in the open world that you just helped with side quests, which really gave you a lot more of an incentive to want to do side quests, because there wasn't always an option that it might be a follower. And since you needed so many of them, more than half the time it was a follower you could recruit. I don't think WoW has really incentivized doing side quests as much as Warlords of Draenor did, because they led to either a new follower for your garrison, a huge amount of extra experience with the side objectives, or just a normal big amount of experience for finding a treasure, even doing the little puzzle that was required in order to get to most of them
This
without
piano
falling.
music's making me
And
sad.
then there was also the story, which was actually pretty good in the leveling experience. Warlords was the only expansion that had full cinematics for every zone, and some of them were very iconic and memorable to this day, especially the ending to Nagrand, which had Thrall and Garrosh fight each other. It's probably one of the most well-known and loved in-game cinematics, and it was shown at the end of a leveling zone.
I
There's
kind of
also the
felt
whole
bad for that guy, chat. Was he actually a bad guy? I don't know if Garrosh was actually a bad person. Like, okay, he did bad things, but I think he was trying to be a good leader, right?
was shown at the end of a
Yeah, Thrall cheated, by the way. In Makaroth, you're not supposed to use magic.
leveling zone. There's also the whole story with Gunnar, where for the Horde questing for Frostfire Ridge, you go around helping out Durotan's brother, who was the uncle of Thrall. And throughout the zone, he'll come in and help you fight back the Iron Horde. And he does such a successful job at it that he thinks he should be the one that leads the Frostwolf clan. So halfway through the zone story, he goes up to Durotan and challenges him to a mock Garra in order to be the new chieftain. And instead of Durotan getting mad at him, or just talking him out of it peacefully by saying, "We're brothers, we shouldn't be fighting," or something else cliche, what he actually does is he just throws down his weapons and walks up to him and basically just tells him to do it. He just says, "If you want to be war chief so bad, just kill me. But see how many people follow you after you kill your brother in cold blood." And since Gunnar wasn't expecting this, like, at all, he just puts his weapons away and says, "Damn, son, that's not how this is supposed to go down. Okay, fine, you're the chieftain." And then he begrudgingly follows Durotar for the rest of the zone, where you go around trying to clean up the third oldest brother's mess, as he's the one who's leading the Iron Horde in the area. At the very end of the questline in the zone, the Iron Horde is about to send their army through a passage in order to help reinforce in the final battle. The Frostwolf clan is incredibly outnumbered, and it was crazy for them to want to fight back in the first place. So they try to tactically have one of their legendary shamans, Drekthar, basically collapse the valley, which would allow them to clean house on the other side with the lower numbers, and basically take the area for themselves before reinforcements could find another way around. However, the men were getting real close to the shaman in order to stop this whole plan from happening, and the Frostwolf were losing men very quickly. So Durotan knew the only way for them to win was if he took a small group of their most elite soldiers to just basically stall for time, but at the cost of dying along with the rock collapse. And Gunnar held them back and just runs in by himself. And then the cinematic for the zone plays, which details Gunnar's solo suicide charge into the ranks, fighting a battle he knows he can't win, which won them the battle ultimately when they successfully collapsed the valley on top of him.
That's Pepe
This zone
hands.
has one of the best moments of character writings I've seen in a while.
Dude,
It goes
what a
from you
cool
having
guy.
to rescue Gunnar when he's shoveling poop in an Iron Horde prison, to watching him challenge his
Damn,
brother
I
to
feel
a death
bad for
duel,
him.
to seeing him give up his life in order to save him.
That's
instead.
sad.
And I was so impressed by the story that I even made a video about Gunnar back in Warlords of Draenor, specifically to share with everyone else who might have missed it. It's not an exaggeration to say that the leveling in Warlords of Draenor was the best new content expansion leveling we've ever gotten. It set the peak for how to
This is
start off a
Chad,
new
that's a
expansion.
Chad.
And just like how the Timeless Isle set the standard for how to create a new zone in an expansion, it basically did everything right. It provided multiple avenues to level up your character and gave you a whole bunch of strong new abilities that you could use just long enough to like them, but then giving you a new one immediately to play with. It increased the power level of your character, encouraged exploration with how much experience the
I
treasure.
used to follow the lore and the story so well, but at some point I stopped. I couldn't follow along. I had no idea what's going on. Like, last expansion, I don't know any story. The one before that, I don't know anything. Like, I just stopped. Until Wrath, I used to just follow the lore everywhere. And I loved the WoW story, but it got weird at some point. I stopped following it. Wait, WoW has a story? It has a story. I kind of want to know the story better.
Treasures gave and how almost all the side quests would award a follower and had interesting stories to tell. There's also the story of Ishkar and the Spires of Iraq, the story with Velen in Shadowmoon, and the story of Murad in Talador, all of which topped off with full-length cinematics at the end. You can see why there was nothing but positive words to be said about the leveling experience in Warlords of Draenor, but that's not the only thing they did right.
I was sad.
Wow,
Why did they kill Marauder, dude? The add-on's called this one right here, by the way. Narcissus or something? It's called Narcissus. I liked Marauder. I'm so sad they killed him there.
Warlords of Draenor only had 3 raids in the entire
Yeah, I
expansion.
was so sad.
2 of the raids are some of the best raids we've ever gotten. Even the 3rd raid, High Mall, was also a good raid. But if you were to ask me my absolute favorite raid in WoW's history that I've personally done, I would probably have to say Blackrock Foundry, the 2nd raid that was released in WoD. Blackrock Foundry did something that no other raid has done since. They went ham on unique boss fights. Hans and Franz is still wholly unique in its belt mechanic.
I like
where basically
that.
you're fighting 2 bosses at the same time. And while you're fighting them, you're in a
That's
room
so
which has a
cool.
constant conveyor belt going back and forth. While on the conveyor belt, there's stamps that will occasionally come down and either damage you on lower difficulties or instantly kill you on higher ones. And while there were little sections of the fight where you could stand still and not be on the conveyor belt, occasionally void zones would come out and would force you to get on the belt anyway. There's even a section of the fight where you basically just have to do the safety dance and just
that's
move
so
out of
fun.
the press
I like this
while on the conveyor
interaction.
belt still going back and forth. There's also Ore Gorger, which had you fight in a little maze, and periodically throughout the fight, he would just start rolling around, which made the entire raid have to run around the little maze and DPS crates so that he would eat the ore in them and end the phase and go back to a normal boss fight.
Who
This
designed
is
this?
another fight which is
I like
wholly
this a
unique,
lot.
as you had to split up the raid in order to run around and DPS all the crates, and of course avoid the boss who's rolling around trying to kill you, so that you could have enough in order to end the phase before he rolled over and just killed everyone. Blackhand himself, the final boss, was also pretty unique for the time. While the fight itself was pretty generic, they did have a gimmick to the fight where every phase of the fight happened on a different level of the boss room. Phase 1 would be on the top level. When you transition, he would just break the floor and take you to the 2nd level. Once the 2nd phase is over, he would break the floor again and take you to the bottom level, where you had to deal with knockback mechanics that could instantly kill you if you fell off into the lava. and it was such a loved final boss fight, it was kind of softly copied again
Yeah,
for
Assert
Castle
and
Aether.
Atheus. I was
And
gonna say
Blackhand
that.
was
It reminded
appropriately
me of
difficult
that.
in its hardest difficulty, being one of the
I liked
hardest boss
Assert and
fights of all
Atheus. That was
time
fun
in its mythic
fight.
mode. And then there's everyone's favorite boss fight of the expansion, Operator Thogar, where you would fight him in a room with 4 train tracks, and periodically throughout the fight,
Oh,
trains would
that's
just
actually
come out and kill anyone that
badass.
was in its path. And sometimes trains would come and stop in order to deposit ads at you to fight. And
Oh, that's
basically,
so
the entire
cool.
fight was just dodging trains and killing ads that came from those trains. And if you didn't kill them fast enough, then too many trains would come in and kill you while you were trying to get the others to go away. Now, unique boss fights can be a good or bad thing. People complain a lot about Hans and Franz for giving them motion sickness, which is probably why they never did something like that again. But Blackrock Foundry was a
Oh
testament
my,
to
dude,
creative
don't
boss
tell them to
mechanics.
game then. I feel like that's a bad.
I don't think a raid has really matched Blackrock Foundry's level of just pure amount of unique fights since. And the thing is, the raid after Hellfire Citadel was also a top tier raid. You see, in Hellfire Citadel, Blizzard made some of the most complicated fight mechanics that we've ever made.
Yeah,
in
little
boss fights.
babies complaining about
And they
cool
were
mechanics.
So
That's actually
complicated
lame. If
because
they
add-ons at the time
don't do
allowed
cool
them
mechanics
to show
because
you a
of
lot
the
more
babies.
information inside of raids than they do today. I still have some footage from back in the day when we were doing Mythic Cormrock, where there was a phase where everyone in the raid had to run to a specific assigned void zone in order to soak. And the way you would deal with this mechanic was just to have an add-on to literally have an arrow on the screen that would point you exactly where you needed to go, as it was set up before the fight started. During the final fight with Archimonde, there was a mechanic where it'd shoot lasers through people, where you only wanted the lasers to go through the 2 people selected, so you had to coordinate yourself in a way so it would only pass through those 2 people and not anyone else. And in the Mythic
I know,
difficulty, this
Shroud, they
basically
actually
went on
do.
everyone at once, so you had to coordinate the entire raid in order to not allow a single laser to overlap and hit anyone, which was basically accomplished through an add-on. There's also Shadow Lord Ishkar, which had a mechanic where you had to throw around an item that gave you an extra action button in order to interact with all the mechanics in the fight. While it may not be as good as Blackrock Foundry, it was still also an excellent raid, and it was basically the upper limit for how difficult boss mechanics could be. There hasn't really been a raid with mechanics as difficult as Hellfire
And watching all these
Citadel's
stuff, I'm excited for a TBC to raid with my guild.
sense. But at the time, they weren't that big of a deal because of how great add-ons were, and instead they were just kind of well liked. And Archimonde himself proved to be a huge challenge as a final boss, as I think he took number 8 on my list of the hardest bosses of all time list. So, when it came to raid content, it was actually excellent. The reason the raids aren't talked about as much as some of the more iconic ones, like maybe Old War or ICC, is because the expansion itself has a negative rap, which means
I honestly feel like Lich King was only fun for me because I knew about him so much from Warcraft 3. I don't know if the whole raid was... I guess the boat scene was really cool. The boat scene was cool. First and second boss, meh. I don't know. I don't know if there was like a cool mechanic. I think the boat and the Sour Fang part, that was kind of memorable. I guess Preacher Side and then Lich King.
it's not a good idea to talk about the positive aspects, because talking
Dude,
about
I do
negativity-
remember that. The dungeon where Lich King like chases you and you have to run with Jaina. That was fun. Those 3 dungeons they added before that one came out, that was actually really cool. I like that a lot.
He just straight up gets more clicks and views.
When
and
we go
talking
back
about
and like touch his
positives.
sword and stuff,
Even if people
those 3
did talk
dungeons
about the
were really
positives,
fun.
they just aren't heard by as many people as all the negatives. And there's
Yeah,
also
running with
lots
Jaina
of
and then all
features
the
that were
stuff falling
introduced in
down on
WoD
you.
that many people still enjoy to this day. Warlords was the expansion that upgraded the heirloom tab, which basically allows you to equip heirlooms on brand new characters without having to mail them. They also added a tab for toys and
Oh,
tabards, so you
I
no
like
longer
that.
need to hold them in your inventory. Warlords also improved the flight path. Before Warlords of Draenor, if you wanted to fly from one place to another, and there wasn't a
You know, listening to this music, what makes me the most sad, chat? Like, makes me emotional? People that work on the game, that actually love the game, but they get shut down, and then they get flamed on. That's sad, dude. Because I know a lot of Blizzard developers, like a lot of workers, they want to do a lot for the game, but the company itself doesn't provide them the money, or the leader of the whole design team, they say no and shut it down. You know why I know that? Because I've seen interviews and there was actually I forgot who it was. He posted on Twitter. It was an original map for What is that map, chat? A deep wound something? The 3 map where there's on top, there's the water, and then the middle, and then the lava. The cart map. You guys know that one? And then there's switches. Switches to turn the carts. What is that map called? Basically, this guy designed the map super fun. Deep home. Is it deep home? He wanted to put like levers to in here, like levers to drop the bridge, and then levers to drop like rocks. It was like a lot of cool stuff in the BG itself, but they shut it down and they just made it where the little cart just goes to the little hole. But it would have been a lot more if the developers say yes, that's a pass, but they have to go through the pass yes or no, and a lot of the cool ideas they don't get passed. And like listening to this music and seeing how much he was talking about, like the people making new flight paths better, like people that actually love this game and putting effort into it. I feel bad for those guys that get shit on, because WoW players, we shit on the devs, right? Because they do deserve it. We love this game, by the way. We love this game. This is the best MMO. It could be better, but some of them just do bad. The high-end leaders, they're too goblins and want money, and they ruin it. That's why people complain.
Connecting flight path discovered, then you would be unable to fly there until you got the connecting path. But with WoD, they made it so even if you did not have the connecting flight path, you could still fly to the path you did have. And with the new stop flight button, a button so useful they even added it to the no changes classic WoW. This button appears when you...
Do you actually know that there's only one dev on the PvP? Well, the last interview I watched, there's 4 people that work for PvP, and 2 of them just left. So is it just 2 people working on the PvP dev? But the thing is, the 2 other devs that work for PvP, they work for other stuff too. I don't know, what is Blizzard even doing, dude? Like, they're making bank. How is this allowed?
You get on a flight path, and when clicked, automatically cancels your flight, causing you to stop flying wherever you're going and land at the next stop that you have now.
Yeah, Activision, sorry.
Forgot to get something in your bank mid-flight? Well, cancel and go back. No longer have to wait for your entire flight to finish. They also added a thing called mercenary mode. See, sometimes one faction has way more players than the other in PvP, and because of this, that one faction has insanely long PvP queues. So Merc mode allowed players of the opposite faction to queue up for a PvP member of the other faction, in a way to help reduce queue times. This feature was so well liked that players have been asking for it to be usable in PvE modes as well, to cut back on how horde-dominated high-level play is. WoD was also when they updated character models from all the vanilla and TBC races. These models kept true to their original feeling while updating them into the new era,
the dwarf
bringing them up
models
to
look
line
so
with the more
cool.
updated WoW art style.
I like the new models. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I like the new models. The dwarves look badass.
Like this changed so much, they keep asking for Blizzard to update their character models with every new expansion. And the biggest feature they added, Garrisons, was a light version of player housing that people have been asking for since day one.
I think they could have killed it if they did a better job with Garrison. From what I thought I could build my own place. Like, you know, in Warcraft 3, you could place anything you want, like anywhere you want. I thought we could do that type of stuff, but there wasn't a lot we could do with it. I think the last thing they added to Garrison was the boat system. I thought we could get on that boat and have like battles against different people on the boat. That would have been so cool, dude. You would have built a strip club? F it, dude. Yeah, that would have been cool. Like, if we could have customized our own stuff, that would have been sick. The boat thing, I was so excited for. I thought I could get on the boat, raid to my friend's Garrison and attack him, but the whole boat thing, it was literally a mission. You click, send these people in, bam, go on the mission boat. That sucked ass, dude.
While it did not fulfill the role of player housing,
I think they could have done really good with the Garrison thing, but they failed to.
it did allow for players to build their own, well, garrisons. A base they controlled, what buildings got made, where they got placed.
One thing I really like though, I can't say everything bad. There was actually the PvP one, the Gladiator Sanctum. That was actually really cool. I liked it. I don't know if you guys like the chat, but it gave you missions and it gave you titles. They give you like missions to kill 100 orc, 100 trolls, 100 elves. If you did that, they give you like a title. And then there was also like this ogre doing like sit-ups, and then like this king comes to visit you, and then you're invited into the Grand Coliseum, where it's like 40, 1v1 free for all and 40.
What can
You guys remember that?
these nuts?
What Arasaka? Yeah. What wasn't too bad in my opinion. I said it before the video even started. I didn't find it to be the worst expansion. I think BFA was the worst expansion for me. Yaso, thank you for the 4-month. Appreciate it. That being said, BFA was bad because Blizzard abandoned the game. It's bad whenever Blizzard abandons the game. I don't know why they do that. They're doing that with Shadowlands right now too. Shadowlands started great. I loved it. Everyone was enjoying it. PvP participation was skyrocketing. And then they just abandon it because they want to go work on other expansions or patch. Like, you still gotta... It's like your pet, dude. They want to play fetch. You gotta toss a little content here and there. Shadowland is worse than WoD? No way. I like Shadowland, but they killed it themselves. Like, they shot their foot by themselves. It could have been way better.
And where the buildings got various perks and buffs, like a portal to any zone you wanted, a faster mount speed, or being able to cut down trees or capture animals. And one of the things players liked was if you combo specific buildings together, you were able to get tens of thousands of gold a week on each character to build up a nice stockpile, simply by recruiting followers who had special traits that doubled gold for missions, and then sending 3 followers with the perk all on the same gold missions. And by doing the daily quest from some of the buildings, all of which could be done in about 5 minutes per character, and was the easiest gold making you could possibly do in any expansion without having to sell stuff on the auction house. You know the weekly events we have in modern WoW? Well, those were actually added with Warlords of Draenor and were called bonus events at first. These events ran every Friday to Monday and had all sorts of things to them, like bonus loot from dungeons, honor from battlegrounds and arenas, pet experience from pet battles, and bonus Apexis crystals later changed into world quests. It also had this fancy new thing added in Warlords of Draenor called time walking. Time walking allowed players at max level to scale down to heroic versions of old dungeons and later raids.
Yeah, I think
it
the
launched with
idea
Burning
of
Crusade, Wrath of the Lich
Garrison
King,
was
and
good.
Cataclysm,
It just didn't
filled
get
with dungeons to
delivered
do,
the way people
with a
wanted it.
currency called Time Warp badges that could be used to buy all sorts of stuff from toys, pets, transmog, and even rep from old expansions. And don't worry, by the way, the bonus events were increased from just the weekend to all week to be the weekly events we have today. And the time walking currency introduced in this expansion is one of the few currencies that transcends expansions, and is just as valuable as it was back then as it is today. So with all of these great features of Warlords of Draenor, why does it go down as one of the most infamous expansions? It doesn't have a scrub progression system
Oh
like
my
Azerite
god,
armor.
take that away,
It didn't
please.
remove the old world like Cataclysm. It didn't introduce a controversial race like the Pandaren. In fact, it just introduced a whole bunch of features that a lot of people really
I hate
liked.
Azerite stuff.
It even had borrowed power without anyone knowing it was borrowed power. And no one ever complains about the Draenor perks of Warlords of Draenor when discussing things like artifacts, the Heart of Azeroth, or Covenants.
Artifact.
It seems to be one of the few expansions
liked
that did
Artifact.
borrow power from the expansions correctly.
Dude, Artifact was great. We had our own class hall. We had our own class mount. We had our own weapon. Dude, I liked Legion, dude. Legion was amazing. Tower challenges. I liked Legion, man. Just, you get to wield the strongest weapon. Dude, I like that a lot. Legion was pog. Also, PvP seasons were 3 months each in Legion. Dude, Legion was I liked Legion.
It even had tier set bonuses, and the final boss would drop a trinket that was so impactful to your class that it was basically like having a new talent. And some of those trinket effects were so good, they basically changed your entire rotation around them. So the gear in the expansion was good too. Now, one of the most infamous moments of Warlords of Draenor was definitely its patch 6.1. In this patch, it's one of the few major content patches which added the least amount of new content. Allegedly. It basically just added a whole bunch of minor things, like the mentioned heirloom upgrade, a few things for garrisons, a couple of new toys, and Twitter integration. It was commonly memed that this was the selfie patch, as it was the patch that introduced the selfie cam toy. Although what's largely forgotten when this patch is brought up is the fact that Blizzard had stated beforehand that with Warlords of Draenor they wanted to go back to naming minor patches after full numbers rather than as like 0.5s. Normally, when they had a minor patch, they would just add a 0.5 to the end of whatever the current patch was. So currently, as of making this video, Shadowlands is in its patch 9.0.5.
Oh my
and that's because they did a minor patch update, which added a couple of new features. But nothing major like a new raid or dungeon.
God. To give us a patch, Blizzard. Like, give us some content to do. What do I do, dude? I'm on like my 5th red paladin now. Fully geared almost. Just need my Lego upgrade, dude. There's nothing to do, and give us new give us a new juice.
Blizzard named the patch which introduced the Valor system as patch 9.1, for example. People would get really mad because they're used to numbered patches being big.
We're
as
angry.
9.0.5,
Really angry.
no one cares about that. Patch 6.1 was them trying to go back to just naming content updates that don't have something major with just full numbers, as this is something they used to do in Vanilla WoW and the Burning Crusade. In the Burning Crusade, patch 2.2 was literally just adding the voice chat integration. And a lot of the patches of Vanilla WoW just had game updates.
I remember me and my brothers were trying to use that for hours. We were trying to set it up like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Fuck, this doesn't work. Go back to Ventrilo, dude.
Real content, as Vanilla WoW ended off on patch 1.12, but didn't have 12 raids that released, for example. But since people were so used to full numbered patches having a raid or something else major, there was a huge backlash at them for daring to call it patch 6.1, when all they did was consolidate all the heirlooms into a more convenient interface that can be used on all new players, and gave people the selfie cam.
I like the selfie cam, dude. You can meme on me, I like it. I think that was a great idea.
Even though we had a full patch in the Burning Crusade which just added voice chat that no one used. That is to say, WoW fans did what they do best and basically blew a minor complaint way out of proportion, where it's still talked about as a bad part.
WoW players are good at complaining. That's actually true. But the thing is, like, I don't blame them, because we pay $15 a month. It's not a free game, chat. We have all the right to complain about this game, because we fucking pay for it. If I play Fortnite, I'm not gonna complain, dude. I'm playing it for free, dude. I'm playing the game for free. What am I gonna complain about? You're paying $15 a month. The content is dry as hell. Like, how long was Shadowlands out for, chat? How long was it out for? Yeah, we have to pay for expansion and $15 a month. Like I said, start of the expansion, amazing. Boom, 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 skyrocketing, gear, vendor, PvP, so fun, boom, 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 and then there's nothing to do after that. So it's like, the PvP participation, check this out, ready? It's even worse now, boys, ready? Xenomate. This shows you the participation of PvP chat, ready? Look at this. The peak was 49,000, 38,000 average. Bro, it's dead. Give us a new content. Like, there's 8,000 people playing 3v3. That is fucking sad. EU, same thing. EU 5, oh my, EU is even worse. The EU is even more dead, chat. Look at this. This is EU 3v3 participation. 5,000 people played. NA, 8,000. Holy cow, Blizzard. Give us a new content before everyone quits WoW, man. We have the, like, what we're complaining for is because we love the game. Like, we have the right to complain about this stuff. They're killing our own game, man. They're killing their own game.
Part of Warlords of Draenor to this day. And because people freaked out so much about 6.1, Blizzard doesn't do that anymore, and more appropriately just adds one more decimal point in, when they have a minor patch update, usually in the form of 0.5 patches. Another big complaint about Warlords of Draenor was the garrisons themselves. People really liked the garrisons for the first month while they were still questing through the excellent zones getting all the followers, but at a certain point, you were just kinda done. The garrisons were fun when you were advancing them, but you can completely max them out and finish the content in your garrison after about a month or two. And so once people hit this threshold, they were mad that the garrisons didn't do more. You could still do the dailies in your garrison every day in order to earn more gold without having to use the auction house than at any other point in WoW's history, but people really wanted more to do with the garrisons. And since they kind of hit the wall of available content for it pretty early, they instead got tired of it and just called it a bad feature. They also didn't like how major
I liked the enchanting thing too. There was some good sides to it, man.
Cities were unoccupied because
I think what he said is true. I think people do get bored of it in 2 to 3 months, but they just need to add I guess it's not that easy too.
One was just in their garrison.
We would like
They
new
made the
content,
garrisons
right?
really convenient for doing pretty much everything, as you could even get an auction house NPC in one of your garrison buildings, that there wasn't really a reason to visit major cities anymore. And so, with the combination of making it feel like the open world had less
If Blizz doesn't add content, I think I already know what this
They're
is.
hotfixing it? Nice! How did it even make it in live? How? Sweet, guys! They're hotfixing it! Cool! That's awesome and all! How did it even make it to live servers? How? How did they think that was okay to even put it in the game? I'm so sick of this fucking company. They're trash! It's the game! It sucks playing the shit! And I'm fucking addicted! So I can't play!
True. So true, dude.
I'm done! I'm done streaming! I cannot stream this game anymore!
Dude, believe it or not, chat, that's every WoW player right now. That's the passion of the game. I talked to all my content creator friend, Guzu. I talked to Guzu about this. Guzu's so depressed about WoW. He's like, man, I wish our game was good. He says that all the time to me. And then I called Clack. Clack's talking about that too. And then Clack's talking about that with Supa. And the Supa and Clack depressed. Dude, when your game is dying, it sucks, chat. It sucks. It could be the best game, but Blizzard just doesn't take care of it.
people in it, and because they wanted more cosmetic options for the garrisons, they kind of turned against it midway through the expansion. There was nothing wrong with the garrisons themselves, other than the fact that they were too useful. They provided ore and herbs, so long as you didn't mind clearing out your herb garden or mine every day. You didn't really need ore and herbs from the auction house because you could just get your own. There was even a building that allowed you to disenchant your gear, so you didn't need to be an enchanter. And it even had access to a bank, so you could just kind of have a mini city inside your garrison. And with how popular Classic WoW is, with how much people were excited about them taking away conveniences, basically the biggest sin of the garrison was just being a big convenience, which honestly doesn't seem like a bad thing. If they just went back and reiterated the garrison system to be more cosmetic focused, I'm sure people would
It's not. I feel like classic players are players that like to tie themselves up for fun and try to like work their way out. You know, like you handcuff yourself for fun, chat, and then you try to like struggle your way out. That's like classic players right there. I'm not even kidding, man. It's like that guy. He's like, true classic player wouldn't play Shadowland. Dude, it literally is. I like classic a lot. I hate classic leveling. I don't think classic leveling is fun. It's fun for like a day or two, and it's like, holy fuck, I'm not leveling. I'm only 25% in. Fuck, dude. Like, the pacing is too slow. I like Shadowland leveling pace. That was good. That was like perfectly balanced. Classic leveling, you're literally tying yourself up, and you're like, can I get out this way? Oh, fuck. I don't feel the blood in my left hand. That's literally you. You're getting like blood clots sitting down too long leveling up. I like classic, but not for some of the aspects. Some of the aspect to the game is too much grind. It's like a no-lifer flex, you know what I mean?
love having more say in the cosmetics in their pseudo player house. Although funny enough, I think people would also be happy if they removed a lot of the conveniences that the garrison had. That way it was purely a cosmetic place and not as useful as it was in Warlords of Draenor. And there's also the endgame content in Warlords of Draenor.
Dude, I loved this. In Mists of Pandaria, you raise your own dragon and you get to ride it later. Remember that, chat?
Basically, the previous expansion, Mists of Pandaria, was chock full of daily quests. Blizzard removed the daily quest limit in that expansion and then went crazy with giving daily quests to basically every zone that you needed to accomplish in order to unlock the Valor vendors. And WoD was trying to rectify that problem by not requiring people to have to grind out dailies in order to unlock vendors that they needed for raid progression. And instead, you could do it for basically cosmetic rewards. In fact, the reputations were just for cosmetics as well. And since the endgame daily system didn't force you to do it, a lot of people just never did it, and then complained that there was nothing to do. Even though the endgame of Warlords of Draenor was basically the same as every other expansion before it. It had raiding, dungeons, PvP, holiday events, challenge modes, gold making, pet battles. It just lacked mandatory daily quests, but still had daily quests as well. So that's why Blizzard decided to add the bonus events, which eventually became the weekly events. They did try to add new stuff, because it turns out
I think WoW is such a broad game, it's hard to make everyone happy. Thank you, Pine.
people like to be told what to do, otherwise they just won't do anything. There was also the content drought of WoD, which was the worst ever content drought in the game's history, as they give on the expansion.
Not history, dude. I don't know, man. BFA one, that content drought was pretty bad. The one we're having right now in Shadowland, pretty bad.
Way through to work on Legion. So, after the last patch of 6.2, there was a huge gap before Legion finally came out. The thing is though, the gap was only about a week or two longer than the gap from Mist of Pandaria to Warlords of Draenor, and only a month longer than the gap from BFA to Shadowlands. The content drought was not really as long as it's remembered, because sure, it was technically the longest content drought in the game's history, but not by very much. Funny enough, counting the total boss counts of the 3 raids in Warlords of Draenor and comparing it to the boss counts of raids from other expansions,
Lich King had so many bosses.
In Warlords of Draenor, and comparing it to the boss counts of raids from
50?
other expansions, it actually has the second least amount of bosses total in an expansion, with Cataclysm actually taking the #1 spot at having the lowest boss count for its expansion, despite having 5.
Dude, do you guys remember when you first watched Cataclysm trailer? When Deathwing was like just bombing everywhere, Pearl Harbor, your whole island. Dude, that was badass.
Total raids.
That was badass.
There's also the notion of cut content from the game, where they promised a lot more stuff with Warlords of Draenor and BlizzCon than
I
we
was
actually
so
got.
hyped for Kata.
But that's kind of true.
And then
for
he
a
like
lot
lands on
of other
so many
expansions as well. There isn't a single expansion that doesn't have a plethora of cut content. Even Vanilla WoW had a whole bunch of stuff planned.
It's like I said, chat, I think every expansion had its own beauty to it, like a fun aspect to the game. It's like whenever somebody asks me what's your favorite expansion, I always say every expansion had some point where it was really fun. BFA, yeah, I don't know about BFA. Why was BFA so bad? I don't know. I think the start of BFA was fun. I swear to God, chat, every new expansion is fun at the start. When you're progressing, you're doing dungeons, you're PvPing, you're getting honor gear, like the start of it is so fun when you're together with your friend and just doing blah blah blah. And after you get everything, it's like boring after that. But I think every launch of the experience is fun for me. I don't know if there was a bad launch experience for me ever. The experience is good, but then it just you run out of things to do.
According to the WoW Diary book, they wanted to add Old Outlands, Northrend, the Emerald Dream, the Dragon Isles, and the South Seas of Kulturas and Zandalar with the base game, but they were all cut in development. They were just more open about planned content in Warlords of Draenor, and because of the backlash they received from not including some of the content they talked about, they just were more tight-lipped on what they were planning, just in case. For example, in BFA, when they were announcing a new patch, they basically only had a couple of screenshots of it for promotional material, and people thought the patch was nowhere near completion because of lack of info. But then they released the entire thing about a week later. They had the whole thing done and ready to go. They were just so conservative about releasing any information that might possibly be cut, because they didn't want a repeat of Warlords of Draenor. So there were definitely some negative aspects of Warlords of Draenor, but they were heavily exaggerated and made to be much a bigger deal than they actually were. And a lot of the content in Warlords of Draenor was some of the best work they've ever done. It really is a gem of an expansion that had one too many scratches on its surface that people
You little bit, you didn't even talk about PvP. These PvP nerds
complained about until they looked like valleys. So, was Warlords of Draenor really that bad of an expansion? Not at all. It was one raid tier away from being one of the best.
I like the video. My favorite series, April Fool's video. That's true. He uploaded April 1. So is this like a troll? April Fool's joke, is this a serious? I had a lot of fond memories in WoD, mostly because of raid encounters. Can't wait for eventual Reddit post on popular opinion. What do you think, chat? Was WoD that bad? I said it at the start before even watching the video. I said it wasn't that bad. I don't think it was too bad. Dude, WoW section is like being taken over by the Asmongold warriors. Damn, I wish my videos were popping up like that. Look at this. This handsome man reacting to, dude. I need to catch up to his level, man. Make sure you subscribe to both channels. Thank you.